Welcome, seekers and visionaries, to Oracle Mountain Chats. Here on this sacred virtual peak, we gather a space for oracles to share their wisdom, their visions, and their craft. It all began with a calling I could not ignore. One day, within a vision, I held this conch shell in my hands, and as I blew its resonant note into the world, I felt its vibration ripple across unseen realms. It was a summons, a signal to fellow oracles scattered near and far. I saw that we were on a mountain, vast and towering, reaching into the heavens. At its base, the world buzzed with life, people moving, creating, searching. Yet at the summit, there was stillness, clarity, and a circle of light. There, oracles stood, their gaze focused both outward and inward. They spoke of the energies they felt, the shifts they saw, and the whispers of the unseen. They weren't above the world, they were its witnesses and its guides. From this vision, OracleFest was born, a celebration of connection, insight, and the timeless wisdom that flows through us all. The message was clear. It is time. Time to meet upon this sacred mountain, to share what we hear, feel, and see. Time to bring the wisdom of the divine to a world that is yearning for its guidance. Through OracleFest, we've created a movement of community, all yearning to empower their own inner oracle. And here in Oracle Mountain Chats, we bring that spirit into a more intimate space. This is where the oracles gather to reflect, exchange ideas, and to explore what wishes to come through in the moment. This mountain is more than stone and sky. It is a meeting place of the realms, a threshold between seen and unseen, known and unknown. Here we gather as oracles to share the visions Spirit whispers to us, to speak of the energy currents flowing through nature and humanity, and to help guide those who seek answers in a world that often feels lost. So grab a seat, breathe in the mountain air, and join us as we begin today's chat. Whether it's an energy reading, a conversation about our craft, our path, or simply sharing a perspective on the world below, this is where we wait for more oracles to join us on the mountain. What wisdom will the mountain bring us today? Let's find out together. Step into this sacred space where the wisdom of the ages converges with the questions of the present. Okay. So here we find ourselves on Oracle Mountain again. This time we are joined by, I'm trying to use different types of words that I feel to describe people, and I would describe you as spirited. I think you have like a really lovely, spiritful energy, just the way that you communicate. So this is Dr. Linda Howe, and we are going to be diving in all about, I would say, the Akashic Records, and also we were just talking before we got started on this, and feel free, Linda, to give any more clues of who you are as we talk, but especially if you want to introduce yourself in a deeper way. You have a lot of experience in the Akashic record world, and yet there's so many people who don't even know what this is. So I'm hoping you can enlighten us a little bit today about where we came from, how to access this wealth of knowledge, and what even are the Akashic Records, so that when people join OracleFest, they're ready to dive right into all the wisdom that you have to offer.
Oh, no pressure.
None needed.
I
Every time you
know, I
show up
know.
as you
I'm
are,
kidding.
right?
No. Do you know, it's so interesting. Thank you so much, Kate. You know, it's so fascinating to me to recognize there really are people who they have no idea what I'm talking about. And so the question that I face and my team here in Chicago face on an ongoing basis is how do we present the records in a way that people really know what we're talking about. But do you know what's so funny is that this is the same issue that we faced when my first book came out. My first book is How to Read the Akashic Records. Um, that came out in 2009. It is now 2024. Now, you know what's fascinating? And I remember sitting there with my team, and oh, we were all like in the panic, right? And the question was, so we all gathered together to discuss what we had learned, what we were learning about what's going on in the world and our relationship and of the records and getting this out there. And what I learned that day was that no one knew what the records were. I didn't know that, right? Because I came into the records consciously in 1994. And at that point in time, I stopped doing everything else, right? I've been working as a shamanic practitioner, doing classic core shamanism, right? I had been doing that for some years. I had been reading tarot cards. I mean, I was having a great time, let's face it. But the fact is, that was all rolled up into my own journey into the records, right? Which is so fascinating. To me, of course, it's fascinating because it's my story. I think everybody should be fascinated with their own story,
I
right?
agree.
Because
I so
this is
agree.
where the richness lives. It really does. So, but you know what happened for me was I was 24 years old. I am not 24 anymore, but thank God. Anyway, but I was 24. But do you know what I did? You'll love this. I woke up having done everything according to what I understood to be the right way, right? Oh, I had a wonderful job. The fact that I hated it didn't matter. I had all this stuff, right? I had a great apartment. I had all this, and everything looked good from the outside. I was just dying inside. I was just hollow and hurting. And so I said this desperate prayer, which was something like, God, if you're even there, right? I was praying to a God I didn't even know it existed. But anyway, but I did. And I said, you have to help me here. And don't you know, within, I don't know, a short period of time, weeks actually, I had a moment. And in this moment, it was so amazing. I had a moment, I was really very involved in a massive dose of self-pity and carrying on. I was like, ah, right, my life is terrible. And what happened was everything stopped. I mean, it literally stopped for me. And in that moment, I had an experience of being completely known, right? Completely accepted. Like the way I am is great. Just the way I am is fine. And that I am a part of the whole of creation. I want you to know that in that moment, I felt so loved and enjoyed by life. I didn't even know what this was. I was like, oh my goodness. Do you know I've never gotten over that? I was 24 years old. I am now 70. I continue to grow into that experience of being known and loved unconditionally. Well, needless to say, this shook me to the core. And because I was raised, I'm second of eight, big Irish Catholic family, north side of Chicago. I am from the land where people don't use words like Akasha. We just like no one would say that out loud. Anyway, and in that time, of course, forget it. I mean, this was the 70s, right? So what happened was at age 24, I launched out on the quest, right? Because whatever this was, and I didn't know what it was, but whatever it was, I knew I had to have it in my life on an ongoing basis. That's all I knew. I had no idea. So the search was on from 24 to 40. Now listen, I mean, I did not think it would take so long. What is this? Like, wait a second, I'm in a hurry. Don't you get it? Come on, guys. I was outraged and offended, but at 40, so there I was. I was doing a whatever you call it. I was on a panel talking about shamanic practices. Right? And there was a woman talking about the Akashic record. I want you to know, I thought she was unusual. I thought she was especially holy, right? And I came to learn she didn't think I was holy at all. And that holiness was not an option for me in this lifetime. Whether or not that is remains to be seen. The story's not over. But it was so, but she was doing a class on the Akashic record. I didn't know what she was even talking about. I had to go. So off I went. And in this class, I followed the instructions. And I did exactly what she said to do. And I opened the records. And don't you know, it was 1994. It was the closest I had come to that experience when I was 24. I opened the records. I was like, it took my breath away. It really did, because I felt, again, completely known, completely loved, accepted, enjoyed, appreciated, all those very grounded and lofty things at once. And the other thing was that I had this sense that I was a part of the whole of creation. And it was a game changer, because this was what I had been searching for my entire life, right? So within short order, I mean, really short order, I stopped doing shamanic work and I transitioned into working in the Akashic Record. Now, the thing that was very funny is I had no idea what I was doing, why, how. I knew nothing. I just knew whatever this was. Here was my thought to myself. This was so funny. I thought, you know what? I'm going to do this until there's nothing good left in it. I felt like it was a sponge, like a full sponge, and I was going to wring it out until
You get all the
I was
use. Yeah,
right.
everything's been squeezed out, every last drop. That'll happen at
Every
some
last
point.
drop.
It's
I'm
got
going
an
to do
end.
this.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Right. And I thought, okay, fine. This will take me a year or two, whatever. Well, here I am. It is now. I'm like, wait a second here. This is where, Linda and her plan are, I don't know, somewhere else. And it was a fascinating experience. So from 94 until today, I have been working exclusively in the Akashic Records. So I don't do, it's interesting. I know people like do the records and astrology and the records and all these, and all of that is fine. But I'm not doing that because my work really is to make the Akashic Record available to anybody who wants it. Now, much to my surprise, not everybody wants it. I'm like, wait a minute, what, huh? That's true though, right? And so I worked in this one method from 94 until 2000. And at that point, I realized I had all these people. It was fine. It was good. It was a sacred prayer. It checked a lot of the boxes for me. Do you know? The problem was there was no emotion in it. There was no heart. And I would have people in classes like crying because their readers were like staring at some speck of dust on the wall or something. And I'm like, no, wait a second. Because my understanding is that the Akashic Record is about the connection of the light of who I am, the soul of Linda with like the soul of Kate. So it's person to person. So if I'm looking at, if I'm looking out the window, this is not helpful. So anyway, so at that point, I really put out the call again, like help, help. And don't you know, at that point, it was 2001, I received the pathway prayer process, which was used. I got that in 2001, September. I've been teaching it ever since. The entire curriculum, that has come through me is all based on this pathway prayer. Okay. So I know people say, oh, well, I do this and I do that, and this is how I get into the records. That's fine. I have no idea what they're doing. Do you know what I'm saying? I can't even comment. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe they're in the records, maybe they're, I have no idea. What I know for me is that this works, and it has worked for tens of thousands, maybe at this point, it's hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And I've had, so then what happens is, so there I am, life goes on as it does. I continue to do readings, but see, with every step, I'm learning about the records because I don't know. I really do not know. I think not knowing is a real gift, right? Because when I'm aware of what I don't know, I'm open to learning. When I think I know everything, watch out. It's not good. It is so not good. It's like,
Was
oh
just
no,
talking about
please.
this. Yeah, I was just talking about this yesterday actually with someone, and just like the idea that actually we're maybe always employing a beginner's mind, and the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. That's like a really enjoyable thing on this side of the way that people are looking at things. And on the other side, or your typical day-to-day side, that idea is not so, comfortable for a lot of folks. But I would
Well,
imagine a lot of people who take these, trainings with you, and who just have an experience in the Akashic records, have similar, like, these light bulb moments, these like wake up kind of times of, wow, this connection. And if we're a world who a lot of people are really hoping for connection, I wonder how we could help. And this is probably a lot of the work you've done in these. That would be 30 years, right? Of Akashic
about it.
records.
30 years.
My sister was born in 94, so I was thinking, oh my
No,
goodness, her whole,
stop.
I know, I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's like, oh my God.
It's incredible to think, oh, I'm like,
Yes,
wow, that's a lot of experience to then not actually be like needing and searching for more, because this is giving you a lot of these answers that are meant to come to you, these like uncertain things that a lot of people live with.
right, right,
And so
right.
I wonder, to the person who walks with this frustration against the uncertainty, um, how might we explain the Akashic records? How might you explain the Akashic records that could help them see this might be my next step?
Okay. So this is my favorite and definition, right? The Akashic record is a vibrational archive of every soul and their journey as human. That's it, the end. What that means. Okay. Akasha. Okay. So let's go back. Akasha, Sanskrit word. Okay. What it means is primary substance, that from which all things are formed. Okay. What that means is we're talking about the raw essence of life before we get to it with our human thoughts and feelings and really get in there with it and wrestle. No, no, no. It's very pure. Okay. So that's what the Akasha is. It is vibrational. That means it's invisible. I can't see it. You can't see it. No one can see it, which is frightening to me. I like to say, I want evidence. I love evidence. The evidence is unseen. But it's so interesting to me because when, like I know, and I'm sure you and others know as well, when someone walks in a room, if my back is to the door and someone comes in the room, within a minute or so, or even less, I can tell you who that is, right? It is the same quality. It's a quality of perception. How do I sense that? The Akasha is everywhere. Okay, it's present all the time, which is really good because that means you don't have to go to the pyramids. And now, if you want to go, go. I say go, right? You don't have to go to India. You can go, it's not off the coast of Brazil and South America. The Akasha is available everywhere, always, which means that anyone who wants to, that's the key, right? Anybody who wants to can access the record, their own or someone else's, anywhere, anytime, okay, with permission. With permission is a big deal because we don't want to be invading someone else's space, right? I don't want to be that person, who goes into the grocery store and is carrying on with the checkers. Oh, let me tell you what I get about you. That is a sign of mental illness. If I have to do that kind of carrying on, that's not the record. So the Akasha Vibrational Archive, an archive is a collection, right? So it's a collection of every soul in their journey as human. So it's everybody's in there, which kind of blows my mind. Listen, there are people I don't like. There are people you don't like. We could get together. We can't erase them because the record isn't the record unless they're in it. But it's true. The good news is that no one can take me out of the record. No one can take you out of the record. I am a part of the record, as is everyone else, which is fabulous. But it's our journey as human, right? Okay, more good news, bad news, right? Everything is a paradox. Everything. Oh my God. So here's the thing with this. It is possible that I have had many lifetimes on other planets. Very possible. The record doesn't address that. So if I want to know about another lifetime where I was out on the planet Smelfen or something, then I have to go find somebody who does that work. It is not within the record. The record does not contain that, right? It also doesn't contain, like there are people who say, oh, there was that lifetime I was a bunny. I would like to be a bunny. I'd like to be a bunny this time. Anyway, but that would be nice. Now, is that true? I don't know. I don't know. But we don't get information about jumping species in the record. It's only about who I have been, who you have been as a human being throughout the soul's journey. That I'm going to tell you, that level of awareness has upended pretty much everything I thought the record was. I thought it was exclusive. And actually, when my first book came out, there was my book, which was getting a lot of really blistering, angry attacks from people. What are you doing? Right? It was frightening. It was really scary. Because my guidance in the record had been very consistent. My guidance has always been make it possible for anyone who wants to read the records, make it possible for them to do it, give them the education they need. Because we are the first generation in history to be able to consciously and deliberately access the Akashic field. This is like, I don't know about you, but I know my mother was a very spiritual woman. She had no idea what I was doing, right? Her mother, you can just forget it. Her mother was like very busy berating herself in the name of the gods that be. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not like for any of us, our parents certainly don't know. So what we're looking at is we are the first generation in history, the history of humanity, to be able to consciously, responsibly, and deliberately explore this realm of consciousness. That's pretty exciting. Okay. But what that means is we don't know what we're doing. Yeah. I think that's hilarious, right? It's all an experiment, and it's an experiment, and it's an exploration. that I get to explore this. Why? I don't know why. I mean, that's why I'm here, right? Is to find out. Like this is here and it's available to anybody who wants it. How can it help me? Well, that's another story, right? Because in the record, so the way to access the record is using a sacred prayer. I use the pathway prayer process, and I'll tell you why, because it accesses the heart of the records. I don't care. I don't need another to-do list, which, they're easy to come by.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like, please, God, no more to-do lists. I want to be the person who can do before it hits the list,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not there yet. I mean, whatever. I have good days. And then I have other days that aren't so good. But this being human is highly overrated. Anyway, so what happens for me is as I'm working in the record, doing readings for people, teaching classes, I mean, I am just learning what the record is, how to use it, all of these, and every concept I had that I thought for sure was right on has been upended by my experience, right? Not by some idea. Now, listen, I love a good idea. I even like some bad ideas, but I love ideas. Do you know? I mean, it's like, oh, yeah, let's check that out. But see, in the record, it's all about, wait a second, what is this? Okay, so like karma. Karma used to scare me. I mean, what I did is I took all these spiritual ideas and I plugged them into my old belief structure, right? Many of us do that. So there I was like, karma, good life, bad life. And at the end, we're going to zero out. And the great scorekeeper in the sky is going to do this. I mean, I had it all figured out. Well, it turns out I am so wrong. I could just cry because, karma is cause and effect. It's definitely, that's what it is. It's, karma is cause and effect. But the reason it gets stuck is because of my judgments about the experience, the people involved, or myself. Any negativity is like crazy glue. It just like, stops everything. However, with acceptance, right? Now, acceptance doesn't mean approval. It doesn't mean like, oh, yay, I love this, It just means, oh, this is the way it is. And as I accept the way things are, they start to move again. As I tell the truth about what's happening and who I am in the matter, not who you are. Although I'm often, one of the things I notice about myself, I'm so bad. When I first started doing this work, I was very interested in everybody else. I wanted to know what they were doing and why they were doing it and how I could change it. And the more I worked in the records, I found out that is none of my business. Oh, what is my business is Linda. What choices am I making? Why am I doing this? Right? This is because if I can change anyone, if it's a big if, it's myself, right? I can't change anybody else. I may have a lot of fantasies about that, but forget it. It's not going to happen. I learned that in the records, right? So over the years, one lesson at a time, one opportunity at a time, I have had the incredible blessing, really, I don't know what else to call it, to mine my whole journey and to learn really what the record is, how I can use it, how it benefits me, how it benefits others, and to write everything down and pass it on. Now, at this point, I have like 6 books, all on the Akashic Record. Listen, I never planned this. Who would ever, first of all, I didn't even know what the Akashic Record was when I was a kid. Whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, wait a second. And I think this is what happens when we follow the light. The light comes, like the light came for me. And I've been seeking it, right? We've been working together ever since, which is what that means is that my plans are out the window. Okay. And that this is a better plan. This is the right plan for me. I don't know. That's kind of a tricky word.
And plan
Anyway,
can seem a little restrictive when it's
doesn't it
continuing
seem
to
it's like,
show.
well, I
Yeah.
don't know, you know.
But
All
it's a
right, that
similar
just
thread, that a lot of the speakers and just people I've been chatting to recently will say, which is actually when you start living from this intuitive or non-ordinary or expansive type of worldview, however it is that you've found it, and thank goodness the Akashic Records found you and you can then share them with so
right.
many others. As soon as we find that place where we feel like, wow, this is just never going to end. This is just so, it keeps teaching, it keeps teaching, it keeps teaching. And therefore I keep healing and growing and learning through that. Like that path of the seemingly, we used to be scared of what that unknown, that uncomfortable feeling was of this vast expanse. But then we become really close to it because we realize how it continues also having that light for us in some kind of way. We find our place in the stars or the records or however.
Right. We do find our place because there is a place for everyone.
Absolutely. I
Right.
love what
But
you
see,
said too about each
yeah,
person having like their own personal record. Wouldn't that be so beautiful to really, it's not knowing what's wrong with you, it's knowing how you came to be, so that there's like, what seems like some sort of deeper understanding of the depth of
yes.
our experience, maybe the reactions, these beliefs.
Do you know, that's interesting because what is available in the record is, of course, there's the story, right? There's the level of the story. But when we go beneath that, excuse me, when we go underneath that, the story, which is always juicy,
I
right?
love a good story. Hey,
Love a good
things
story.
never
I love a
change.
good story. Bring
Yeah,
it
we all
on. I
do.
love it.
We all do.
Okay,
Yeah.
I do, right? But there's got to be more.
Yeah.
And be underneath that are the causes and the conditions. Why did I do that? What is the point? And learning. And then beneath that is the soul level truth. The soul level truth within the Akasha, what I have learned more than anything is that everyone at their core is good. Every choice we make, every decision, every action that I take, or anyone else, is based on my desire to expand my experience of being known and loved. Everything. Now, listen, some of those things are, so what if I rob a bank? Well, it's probably not the smartest thing, but if I need money, it's a good, I don't know. I just don't know. But what happens in the record is we begin to recognize that who we are is good, right? And the question is always, how do I love myself now? I remember, so my first book is all about the method. Dun, 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 do it this way. And it's good. I mean, listen, I've gone back to it. I've looked to make changes. There's no change in the way we do this. We do it the same way and it works. Okay. The second book, though, so when I get that out, I think, oh, I'm done. I'm done. I wasn't done. The next part is the personal healing. Okay. And I love this because every day at that point in my life, my father was dying. Okay. And my son was probably 4 or 5. Very, oh my God, creative, wild child, right? He was someone, I mean, I would like him at 40, but who wants him at 5? Like, no, no, just do what I say. He had no interest in what I said. Anyway. Okay, now listen, do I love that in an adult? Yes. Do I love that in a child? Not my own. Anyway, but do you know what happened? So I'm second of 8. I have all these brothers and sisters. Okay. My father's dying, drama, drama, terrible, terrible. I mean, it's really terrible. It's terrible. So what happens is this. Every day I get up, I'm like, I'm going to go out there and I'll be the light today. Okay, that's fair. And I would get to, wherever. And I would be arguing with my siblings. I would be crying because my father was so sick. My mother was a mess. I mean, the story is endless, right? And I would get home and I would go into my records and I would realize I was anything but helpful. I was really making it worse and I didn't even know it. All in the name of being, of being a I'm a light worker, so be nice to me. Anyway, it was terrible. But the thing was, it didn't matter that I had a great, like a burning desire in my heart to live up to my ideals. I could have ideals from now till kingdom come. Did not matter. Okay. And that blew my mind. And the records really took me by the hand. And this is really something. So no matter what would happen, I would go into my records. I'd be like, oh, I did it again. And I did. I was terrible. And the records would say, can you love yourself now? I was like, you don't understand. I've got to get good. Then I'll love myself. The records were like, well, you're not going to get good until you love yourself. I mean, I can't, Kate, this was so upsetting to me. And I
Mhm.
knew it was right. You know how you know it's right? It's like, oh, I don't want that to be right.
Yep, I get that all the time.
It was right. It was like, oh. So anyway, but and from there, everything from, oh, I don't know, everything from how do I live up to my principles? I don't know. Some days I do, some days I don't. How do I accept the fact that I am horribly imperfect? Well, I wasn't happy about that. And when I realized that it didn't matter if I was in the records every day, 6 hours a day, I would not attain this thing in my mind called perfection. Perfection is not the point. The point is usefulness. How can I be useful as a human being? Which is very interesting because in the middle of all of this explosion of exploration, right? I realize, I'm always so curious about, oh, what planet have I been on and what have I done? And surely I must be important somewhere in the universe. Something like that. Surely, this kind of stuff. So anyway, I go in and don't you know, this killed me. This was so bad because I had this exchange um, in the record that really had to do with the idea that, of course, I was fascinated by lifetimes in other galaxies. And I was, because there's no pressure to be a better person. There's no pressure to let all the love in my heart come out. What this does is it created for me a false sense of superiority. But I dug that. I'm like, yes. Well, lo and behold, it's not true. It doesn't matter. So great. So if I'm the queen out on, I don't know, in some star system, that's really nice. But today in my life, can I be kind and respectful to the people around me who are very different, right? They think I'm weird. I think they're weird. We're even. I don't know. It's so easy. See, it's like, oh my goodness, I could just go on and on and on. But do you know what? I want to know, what questions do you have? Do you have things you want to know about?
Well, I love all of this, by the way. And I'm just enjoying your way of meandering around stories because I find it just delightful to sit with. I'm like, oh, I wish I had some tea. I could just see myself just soaking up these chats. I know the Oracle Fest viewers are really going to enjoy being a part of anything you provide and this experience that you talk about through your life. I think, well, that is how it works for a lot of people is that there's an experience. There's I like to refer to, Newton and the apple and just it's like bing
That's right.
and it kind of, and sometimes it's a lot of little crab apples over time. And sometimes it's a real, a real big one, red delicious, right on
That's
the
right.
noggin. Yeah, exactly. And so I hope there's lots of, kind of apple drops. Something that I think would be interesting to know is how how you how you see it going for someone who maybe has dabbled in lots of different things and is feeling disconnected to their themselves, I would say, themselves in this lifetime, but come across the Akashic Records, and feel inspired to explore what could be some of their first steps, of course, including your books and learning from you. What could be one of their first steps in maybe readying themselves or preparing their mind? Or, is there anything you would
Okay.
see as like
Okay.
a
So
basic?
yes, this is really interesting because see, when any person comes to the record will always meet us where we are. Okay. Which is a huge, if you think about it, because there are many people who have great backgrounds in spiritual activities, right? Spiritual practices. That's nice. But see, you don't have to have that because to be in the record, because the record is it is the energetic connective tissue.
Hmm.
Okay, between the soul, everybody has one. People we like, everybody's got one. The soul and the source. So there is a body. So it's not the source. Thank God. The gods. Thank whoever's driving the bus. Right? It's not that, but it's also not just the soul. It's the connector.
Mm.
That is fascinating if you think about it. Okay, now everyone has a soul. Everyone is from the source. Okay, call it whatever you want. I don't care what you call it, but everybody's from the same place at about the same time. Excuse from a record standpoint. I used to love old souls, new souls, all this. It's like, forget it. Everybody is about the same age, so just calm down, right? Which is good. And what happens in the record is in this environment of it's really unconditional love, right? But it's that sense of being really accepted and welcome, okay, in this dimension of awareness. That gives us as people a sense of emotional safety. In order to get to the truth, right, we have to feel safe. If I don't feel safe, I don't care how nice it is. I don't care how dressed up it is. I'm not going there. No thanks.
So do people need a sense of emotional safety
No,
before, or you're suggesting that
no,
it's
no, no, no. I'm saying
driven by the experience?
the record will give them that.
Right. Right.
Here's the thing. However you are is fine for the record is fine. Like no one can really listen. You can't hurt the record. Trust me. I've been in there a lot, carrying on like a general lunatic. I have not for a moment altered the record, right? You know how people say, "Oh, yes, I'm going to erase this." Oh, get out of here. That's not the case because that's not what the record is. Okay, it's a vibrational archive of every soul in their journey. That's all it is. Okay, there are two parts to everybody's records. The first part is the essence of who you are. Okay, that's the one part. The next part are the stories of the lifetimes you live through which you realize your own goodness. I was not raised to think I was any good. Actually, I was raised that if I thought I was good, I was in big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Better not to even go there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not alone. I mean, this is very popular in the West. It's really popular in the East. It's popular in the world, right? And it's changing because the idea that who we are is good, that's a relatively new idea. I mean, that was turn of the 19th century, right? And it has very slowly crawled its way into our consciousness, very, very, very slowly. Um, so, so in terms of preparation, I don't think anyone has to prepare. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to prepare. Just go the way you are and, learn how to do it. But the other thing is this I found really helpful. I know when I first came to the records, I had a lot of expectations,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was looking for these guys in the brown robes. I've yet to see them. First of all, like they're like, oh, here she is again. They aren't there. There are no, but this is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about guides in the traditional sense of guides. I know guides. I have guides. They're great. Guides are not part of the records, right? So there's a whole way it's organized and managed that is different from what I knew and what I expected. And I think it's really important, certainly for me and for others, to really be conscious of our expectations. Like when I realized, like when working in the record, 85%, it's okay. So we're going to take 100 people, 85 of those people will have a sense of knowing. Okay. 10% will have visions. That's only 10%. That only means 10 out of this. Are they better than the rest? No. And then out of that, we have 5% remaining. That 5% can hear their audio.
Mm-hmm.
That is really not the way. See, I thought when I would go into the records, I would see things. I want you to know, in all my years, I think I've seen like 5 images, and
Mm-hmm.
they have taken me years to kind of muddle through,
Mm-hmm.
right? Opening my records, going in and asking, what is this? And what is this? And what does this mean? And how can I use it? So, what I love about the record, one of the other things is that it doesn't, like, I don't have to know what my chakras are. The record doesn't care, right? I don't mean, I'm sure at some level the record cares, but really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I know this system or that system, or if I have ideas. It's funny because so here's the thing. I was teaching this class, so it's very funny, and how to read the records. Very nice group, right? It was great. It was a great time. Okay. And in the class, someone sees a waterfall, right? Like Niagara Falls or something, like a big waterfall. And everybody, we're all like, oh, yeah, we all know what waterfalls are. Waterfalls have to do with emotion and clearing emotion, all this stuff. Well, it turns out that wasn't it at all. This person was going to that place. I can't even think of the name of it. In Africa, where they have the falls.
Victoria Falls?
Victoria Falls, yeah, in Africa. Yeah. I think that's hilarious. That's what it was about. It was not about all this. We had all this supposed spiritual nonsense, had nothing to do with what it was great. But that's when I learned that the records really, great. So we all had all these great ideas about what water meant, when in fact it was much more literal than any of us anticipated. I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding. So it was great. But see, that's how the record works. The record will work with us where we are, how we are, what we know, because see, the record can only come through me as me.
Mm-hmm. So it's
Okay,
responding to, and maybe if I could bring it into like a physical realm kind of
sure.
context, it's translating it for your experiences and your perception. So it's similar to like a dream where if I dreamed about a snake versus my best friend who's very scared of snakes dreaming about a snake, we're going to have a totally different experience. She's going to wake up in a sweat maybe, and I would wake up going, ooh, how transformational.
How
Right.
cool. Exactly.
Right.
That's
And so
exactly how it
it's
is.
kind of, yeah, it's like translated or coded for that person's brain and that person's experience. So it really is, your mission is like an invitation for each person to discover their own records, at least develop this relationship, because it's you and that in between connection. And I love what you're saying too about, I think society has this seeing is believing kind of doctrine. And oh
Right.
my gosh, that's an important message that you just shared. I want everyone to like just go back and re-listen to that, because it's so important for people to know, hey, there's actually many different ways we sense and perceive. And this is one amazing, beautiful doorway you open into a space that is like just for them, and that they can have this, I would say, sacred relationship with as well, as they access the records.
Right, right.
It's
And that's
beautiful.
what, that's a great word is that it is sacred. That
Mm-hmm.
what we're talking about is moving into a more conscious, responsible, deliberate
Mm-hmm.
connection with our own soul, to know our own soul, to live a soul-led life, as opposed to, life can be many things.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
Yep.
Nah. Right. But on the path here, I'm really looking for, so what is the soul, and how do I live from that place, and how do I get to that truth? Some years ago, I remember I had a friend say to me, "Well, Linda, everything you need to know is already inside of you." I was like, "Oh, do you have a jackhammer? Excuse me, how do I get there?" And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the pathway prayer comes in, right? Because it's a way, it's a very effective way to get there, to get to that place where truth is known as it is told, right? As I put words to it, because like we know, right? Energy moves on the formed word. It can be spoken, it can be thought, right? It can be written, but it's got to be a formed word. And as we put words to our experience, whatever it is, right? Whatever, like I like the snake, I don't like the snake, doesn't matter. As I tell the truth, what happens is energy is released. And that's how the record works. And so, what the record demands, I'll say demands of me, is that I be honest
Mm-hmm.
to the best of my ability with myself and with others. Because it is in this telling of the truth that power, that I can access power. If I don't tell the truth, I can't get to it, which
I love
really,
that. I know. We could cry all day about that.
right. It's like, wait a minute. Anyway.
But you're so right. And I actually, I think that's a really poignant kind of, it's a powerful statement for us to leave on
Mhm.
in this chat, as I'm sure we're going to have more chats. And
That's right.
I am really, I feel so excited for those who are going to be at OracleFest and hear more, and perhaps get to touch base with or explore their
Mhm.
understanding of the Akashic record, and Akasha. And so thank you so much for being here today on Oracle Mountain, and for all those who are listening and looking to connect with their soul and to live from that place of truth, as I think we all yearn for or hope for ourselves. I would encourage you to come out and learn more from Linda Howe, and also check out anything that she has going on her website. And we'll link those all below as well, wherever this is shared, and then throughout as well at OracleFest. Anything else you wanted to share or say before we sign off?
No, thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Thank you. It's just great to be here. It's great. Thank
Isn't
you.
it just, that's a bigger statement, eh? Isn't it just great to be here? We'll
It
leave it
is. It's just great. Thank you. I
there.
love it.